The first scene discovers a wild wood. The attendant spirit descends or enters. Before the starry threshold of Jove's court my mansion is, where those immortal shapes of bright aerial spirits live insphered in regions mild of calm and serene air, above the smoke and stir of this dim spot, which men call earth, and with low-thoughted care, confined and pestered in this pinfold here, strive to keep up a frail and feverish being, unmindful of the crown that virtue gives, after this mortal change, to her true servants, amongst the enthroned gods on sainted seats. Yet some there be that by due steps aspire to lay their just hands on that golden key that opes the palace of eternity. To such my errand is, and but for such, I would not soil these pure ambrosial weeds with the rank vapours of this sin-worn mould. But to my task Neptune besides the sway of every salt flood, and each ebbing stream, took in by lot twixt high and nether Jove imperial rule of all the sea-girt isles, that like to rich and various gems inlay the unadorned bosom of the deep, which he to grace his tributary gods by course commits to several government, and gives them leave to wear their sapphire crowns and wield their little tridents. But this isle, the greatest and the best of all the main, he quarters to his blue-haired deities, and all this tract that fronts the falling sun, a noble peer of mickle trust and power he has in his charge, with tempered awe to guide an old and haughty nation proud in arms, where his fair offspring, nursed in princely lore, are coming to attend their father's state, and new entrusted sceptre, but their way lies through the perplexed paths of this drear wood, the nodding horror of whose shady brows threats the forlorn and wandering passenger, and here their tender age might suffer peril, but that by quick command from sovereign Jove I was dispatched for their defence and guard. And listen why, for I will tell ye now what never yet was heard in tale or song, from old or modern bard, in hall or bower. Bacchus, that first from out the purple grape crushed the sweet poison of the misused wine, after the Tuscan mariners transformed, coasting the Tyrrhene shore, as the winds listed on Circe's island fell. Who knows not Circe, the daughter of the sun, whose charmed cup whoever tasted lost his upright shape, and downward fell into a grovelling swine? The nymph that gazed upon his clustering locks, with ivy berries wreathed in his blithe youth, had by him, ere he parted thence, a son, much like his father, but his mother more, whom therefore she brought up, and Comus named, who, ripe and frolic of his full-grown age, roving the Celtic and Iberian fields, at last betakes him to this ominous wood, and in thick shelter of black shades embowered, excels his mother at her mighty art, offering to every weary traveller his orient liquor in a crystal glass, to quench the drouth of Phoebus, which as they taste, for most do taste through fond intemperate thirst, soon as the potion works their human countenance, the express resemblance of the gods is changed into some brutish form, of wolf, or bear, or ounce, or tiger, hog, or bearded goat, all other parts remaining as they were, and they, so perfect is their misery, not once perceive their foul disfigurement, but boast themselves more comely than before, and all their friends and native home forget, to roll with pleasure in its sensual sty. Therefore, when any favoured of high Jove chances to pass through this adventurous glade, swift as the sparkle of a glancing star, I shoot from heaven to give him safe convoy, as now I do. But first I must put off these my sky robes spun out of iris woof, and take the weeds and likeness of a swain, that to the service of this house belongs, who with his soft pipe and smooth dittied song well knows to still the wild winds when they roar, and hush the waving woods, nor of less faith, and in this office of his mountain watch likeliest and nearest to the present aid of this occasion. But I hear the tread of hateful steps, I must be viewless now. Comus enters with a charming rod in one hand, his glass in the other, with him a rout of monsters headed like sundry sorts of wild beasts, but otherwise like men and women, their apparel glistering. They come in making a riotous and unruly noise, with torches in their hands. The star that bids the shepherd fold now the top of heaven doth hold, and the gilded car of day his glowing axle doth allay. In the steep Atlantic stream, and the slope his upward beam shoots against the dusky pole, pacing toward the other goal of his chamber in the east. Meanwhile welcome joy and feast, midnight shout and revelry, tipsy dance and jollity. Braid your locks with rosy twine, dropping odors, dropping wine. Rigor now is gone to bed, and advice with scrupulous head. Strict age and sour severity with their grave saws in slumber lie. We that are of purer fire imitate the starry choir, who in their nightly watchful spheres lead in swift round the months and years. The sounds and seas with all their finny drove now to the moon in wavering morris move. And on the tawny sands and shelves trip the part fairies and the dapper elves. By dimpled brook and fountain brim the wood nymphs decked with daisies trim their merry wakes and pastimes keep. What hath night to do with sleep? Night hath better sweets to prove. Venus now wakes and wakens love. Come, let us our rites begin. 'Tis only daylight that makes sin, which these dun shades will ne'er report. Hail, goddess of nocturnal sport, dark, veiled Coito, to whom the secret flame of midnight torches burns. Mysterious dame, that ne'er art called, but when the dragon womb of Stygian darkness spits her thickest gloom, and makes one blot of all the air. Stay thy cloudy ebon chair, wherein thou ridest with Hecate, and befriend us, thy vowed priests, till utmost end of all thy dues be done, and none left out, ere the blabbing eastern scout, the nice morn on the Indian steep, from her cabined loophole peep, and to the tell-tale sun descry our concealed solemnity. Come, knit hands and beat their ground in a light fantastic round. Break off, I feel the different pace of some chaste footing near about this ground. Run to your shrouds, within these brakes and trees, our number may affright some virgin sure, for so I can distinguish by mine art. Benighted in these woods, now to my charms and to my wily trains I shall, ere long, be well stocked, with as fair a herd as grazed about my mother Circe. Thus I hurl my dazzling spells into the spongy air, of power to cheat the eye with blear illusion, and give it false presentments, lest the place and my quaint habits breed astonishment, and put the damsel to suspicious flight, which must not be, for that's against my course. I under fair pretence of friendly ends, and well-placed words of glozing courtesy, baited with reasons not unplausible, wind me into the easy-hearted man, and hug him into snares. When once her eye hath met the virtue of this magic dust, I shall appear some harmless villager, whom thrift keeps up about his country gear. But here she comes. I fairly step aside and hearken, if I may, her business here. The lady enters. This way the noise was, if mine ear be true, my best guide now. Methought it was the sound of riot and ill-managed merriment, such as the jocund flute or gamesome pipe stirs up among the loose unlettered hinds, when for their teeming flocks and granges full in wanton dance they praise the bounteous Pan, and thank the gods amiss. I should be loath to meet the rudeness and swilled insolence of such late waysailers. Yet, oh, where else shall I inform my unacquainted feet in the blind mazes of this tangled wood? My brothers, when they saw me wearied out with this long way, resolving here to lodge, under the spreading favour of these pines, stepped, as they said, to the next thicket side, to bring me berries, or such cooling fruit as the kind hospitable woods provide. They left me then, when the grey-hooded even, like a sad votaress in a palmer's weed, rose from the hindmost wheels of Phoebus' wain. But where they are, and why they came not back, is now the labour of my thoughts. 'Tis likeliest they had engaged their wandering steps too far, and envious darkness, ere they could return, had stole them from me. Else, O thievish night, why shouldst thou, but for some felonious end, felonious end. In thy dark lantern thus close up the stars that nature hung in heaven and filled their lamps with everlasting oil to give due light to the misled and lonely traveler. This is the place, as well as I may guess, whence even now the tumult of loud mirth was rife and perfect in my listening ear, yet naught but single darkness do I find. What might this be? 1,000 fantasies begin to throng into my memory, of calling shapes and beckoning shadows dire, and airy tongues that syllable men's names, on sands and shores and desert wildernesses. These thoughts may startle well, but not astound the virtuous mind, that ever walks attended by a strong-siding champion conscience. O welcome pure-eyed faith, white-handed hope, thou hovering angel girt with golden wings, and thou unblemished form of chastity, I see ye visibly, and now believe that he, the supreme good, to whom all things ill are but as slavish officers of vengeance, would send a glistering guardian, if need were, to keep my life and honor unassailed. Was I deceived, or did a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night? I did not err. There does a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night, and casts a gleam over this tufted grove. I cannot hallo to my brothers, but such noise as I can make to be heard farthest I'll venture, for my new enlivened spirits prompt me, and they perhaps are not far off.